Day 8 of the Apologetics Blitz on IUIC, and this is a good one. Literally a fire and a flame? No, of course not. This language is metaphorical. So the house of Esau will be stubble. How? They will be consumed. How? What is going to happen? There is a destruction to the house of Esau. But how does this occur? Is it all just with violence and death? No, it is not. We know historically what happened. And Hyrcanus conquers them. The only way they can continue to live there is if they convert. And when they do, they're thereafter considered to be Jews. They are absorbed into the Jewish people, at which point they could intermarry, and they were living among them and doing all the things that the Jews did. They became one people. This is simple history. And so the consequence of that is the house of Esau ceased to exist.
Got him. We fucking got him.
Forgive the language, but as we know, most One West Hebrew Israelites don't care about language. They don't care about facts. And here, we're dealing with that yet again. First, how do we know? Well, it's clear in that Gedaliah took a little snip of an entire video that completely destroyed his video and is trying to rebut that. Not only is he going to misrepresent me here, though, as we'll see, he's also going to mix prophecy that pertains to different events.
Man, I love to see Esau squirm and lie about who they truly are.
Nobody's lying except you. You're simply making an assertion that you cannot substantiate.
Notice that he went to Josephus to try to prove that the mount of Esau has been consumed and that there is no more mount of Esau because they were converted.
It says the house of Esau, just so we're clear.
So you're telling me John Hyrcanus converted an entire race of people to Judaism?
I'm just reading the text of Josephus, the historian who was an Israelite who lived in the 1st century. Hyrcanus took also Dor and Marissa, cities of Idumea, and subdued all of the Idumeans. Notice that, subdued all the Idumeans, and permitted them to stay in that country if they would circumcise their genitals and make use of the laws of the Jews. That's what it says. So I'm just going by the text.
Boy, you real bad, boy. You a slick white boy. I tell you, y'all some fork-tongued devils. Then he said, is it all going to happen by fire? Of course not.
More precisely, I argued that fire there is a metaphor. What I said is that it would not all happen by violence. Now, was there violence? Yes, of course there was, because these cities were captured, as is pointed out in Josephus. And there's more discussed in Josephus as well about this. However, the point is that there was also conversion involved.
Let's go up earlier in the chapter, Obadiah 1. And thy mighty men, O Teman, shall be dismayed, to the end that every one of the mount of Esau, every one of the mount of Esau may be cut off by slaughter.
Here Gedaliah is conflating events within the book of Obadiah, because what is described is not one single event. The text he's reading here deals with Teman, which was a city in the land of Edom. When we get to the days of John Hyrcanus, we find that the Idumeans, the Edomites, are no longer in the land of Edom. They're in Idumea, which was in the southern part of Israel. So they had migrated there based upon events that had taken place throughout history. Some of those events are described here in the book of Obadiah, but we'll get into it as we go.
For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever.
And this happened. This was done by Babylon, which is why when we get to John Hyrcanus' day and Jesus' day, they're no longer in Edom. They're in the land of Israel. Notice in Obadiah chapter 1, starting in verse 2. Behold, I will make you small among the nations. You are greatly despised. The arrogance of your heart has deceived you. Those who dwell in the clefts of the cliff, in the height of your habitation, who say in his heart, who will bring me down to earth? Though you build lofty like the eagle, though you set your nest among the stars, from there I will bring you down, declares Yahweh. What I think Gedaliah is perhaps unaware of is this language is Almost the same thing Jeremiah writes in Jeremiah chapter 49. I have heard a message from Yahweh, and an envoy is sent among the nations, saying, Gather yourselves together and come against her, and rise up for battle. For behold, I have made you small among the nations, despised among men. As for the terror of you, the arrogance of your heart has deceived you, O you who dwell in the clefts of the rock, who sees the height of the hill. Though you make your nest as high as an eagle's, I will bring you down from here, declares Yahweh. So in this text, the nations are stirred up against Edom. Notice this is not Israel. This is not the destruction that comes later that we were talking about. So Gedaliah has mixed these things up. But the nations are led by, in this particular context, Babylon. How do we know? Well, starting in chapter 45, we see a destruction that occurs with Edom and the surrounding nations. And then ultimately in chapter 50, we see Babylon is themselves destroyed. Let's just take a look at some of this context to see. The scene begins in Jeremiah chapter 45. It says, starting in verse 4, Thus you are to say to him, Thus says Yahweh, Behold, what I have built, I am about to pull down, and what I have planted, I am about to uproot. That is, the whole land. But as for you, are you seeking great things for yourself? Do not seek them, for behold, I am going to bring calamity on all flesh, declares Yahweh. But I will give your life to you as spoil in all the places where you may go. Seeing that this refers to what happens with Nebuchadnezzar and Babylon and the destruction that comes subsequently, we go into chapter 46. Verse 13, this is the message which Yahweh spoke to Jeremiah the prophet about the coming of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, to strike down the land of Egypt. And Egypt is one of the lands that are here talked about being destroyed. In verse 26, I shall give them into the hand of those who are seeking their lives, even into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and into the hand of his servants. So very clear here. Even in chapter 49, verse 28, concerning Kedar and the kingdom of Hazor, which Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, struck down. Thus says Yahweh, Arise, go up to Kedar, and destroy the men of the east. So here again, this is a context dealing with Nebuchadnezzar, dealing with Babylon, and ultimately when we get into chapter 50, we read about the destruction of Babylon itself that was going to come. And Jeremiah gives us insight then when it comes to the destruction of Edom, how what is said in Obadiah is true as well as here in Jeremiah, but how then there were still Edomites who remained for John Hyrcanus. It says in verse 10, But I have stripped Esau bare, I have uncovered his hiding places, so that he will not be able to conceal himself. His seed has been destroyed along with his relatives and his neighbors, and he is no more. Leave your orphans behind, and I will keep them alive, and let your widows trust in me. You see, the destruction was specific to the men. The women and the children were to remain. And so that is why when we get to the days of John Hyrcanus, they are small. Remember, it says they would be least among the nations. They were going to be small, a few people. And so they end up getting pushed out of the land of Edom. The Nabateans move in behind them. And when they're in the land of Israel, the Israelites attack their cities and ultimately subjugate the remnant.
Ever. So he said, oh, they're not going to all be cut off just solely by slaughter or by fire. They're going to be cut off by consumption in a metaphorical sense, meaning they're going to become Jews.
No, what I said was the house of Esau would be eliminated because the remnant would become Jews. That is the specific reference to the house of Esau being no more. How would the house of Esau be no more? It starts with destruction, and the remnant converts, and they become Jews.
How there's going to be no more house of Esau. Oh, okay. Ezekiel 35, verse 5, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, meaning forever, and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity, at the time that their calamity or iniquity, had an end. Therefore, as I live, saith the Lord God, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee.
How carefully did you read this? Did you notice it's talking about a specific place? I will make Mount Seir a waste and a desolation. I will cut off from it the one who passes through and returns. I will fill its mountains with its slain. On your hills and in your valleys and on all your ravines, those slain by the sword will fall. So this is talking about a specific place. Notice, I will cut off from it, that place. So how does this fit for you? Because when we get to John Hyrcanus' day, well, the Edomites aren't in Edom anymore. They aren't in Mount Seir anymore. So where is this? I mean, it says where it is. It's in the land of Edom. How does this work? You need to explain it to us. Is it figurative? Well, if it's figurative, then would the people be figurative too? Or you want to say, oh no, Mount Seir means Edomites wherever they are. Well, how are you determining that?
Since thou hast not hated blood, even shall blood pursue thee. Thus will I make Mount Seir most desolate, and cut it off from it him that passeth out, and him that returneth. And I will fill his mountains with his slain men. In thy hills and in thy valleys and in thy rivers shall they fall that are slain with the sword.
You need to make it make sense. This doesn't fit what you're arguing, so how is this going to work?
Isaiah 34, verse 4, you can't get away from this, Edom. I know it hurts. And all the host of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll, and all their hosts shall fall down, as the leaf falleth off from the vine, and as a falling fig from the fig tree. For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea, and upon the people of my curse to judgment.
Again, you got to make it make sense. What does it say? Verse 6, the sword of Yahweh is filled with blood. It is sated with fat, and the blood of lambs and goats, with the fat of the kidneys of rams. For Yahweh has a sacrifice in Basra, and a great slaughter in the land of Edom. So if this is related to the land of Edom, and by John Hyrcanus' day, the Edomites were no longer in the land of Edom, how does this work? Explain it.
As much as you want to get away and try to say, oh, John Hyrcanus, according to the history, he consumed them metaphorically by making them convert.
Are you okay? Like, do you need a number to call? Something? For real?
To Judaism, and I'm not an Edomite. No, you're an Edomite.
Go ahead and prove it then. But we both know you can't, because it is absolutely ridiculous to claim that. And in summary, this fits your effort.
I think I'll perplex him with my slow ball. 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out. 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out. 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out.